All right, welcome everyone to another edition of Deconversion Stories. And a little reminder, if you guys like the intros and outro music to these shows, you can find the link to my SoundCloud down below because it's all me that you're hearing there. Well, plus the guys that play the instruments. I'm just the vocalist, so I'm the guy that hangs out with the actual musicians. But anyways, today we have on the show Mr. Justin Ruggles is with us, and
Hello.
Justin is an ex-JW or Jehovah's Witness, and
That's correct. Yeah.
I'm sure that you have quite the tale to tell about how you found your way free, and of course, ultimately the results of that, because we all know that some pretty horrible shit happens after you leave, and all with the shunning and everything. So prepare yourselves, folks, for what should be quite the story. And Justin, I'm going to let you get right into it. And then if we have questions, we'll just wave our hands frantically or something like that, or just blurt out a question or something.
Scream bloody murder.
Feel free to stop me at any time. My name is Justin Ruggles. I'm from Ohio. I was born and raised in Southern Ohio, which is a little town down there called Jackson, which is maybe 6,000 people. You might pick up my accent a little bit from time to time, but I currently live in Columbus with a big old family up here. Quite happy. 41 years old. It's been a while since I've been in the religion. It's been basically about half of my lifetime ago, and it's taken all of that time still. Yeah, it was basically right around the time I was 20. Really started to get out. But the repercussions have definitely lasted this entire time.
Yeah, for sure.
Are you a Buckeyes guy?
Oh, no. No, I'm not trying to poo-poo anybody that likes sports, but
come on, pick a fight.
It's not for me anymore.
You're Mikey with a product placement. Coke is it.
I did like the Bulls, though, but the last time I watched the Bulls, Michael Jordan was playing ball. So,
oh wow,
hey, we're not doing so bad. Your Cavaliers are not bad either.
Oh.
Anyway,
well, it still ends up being a fairly large part of my life. The religion. I have a lot of family that's still there, so from time to time, it has a pretty big impact on the family relations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for
sure. My brother Donnie, actually Donnie's probably watching, so hello Donnie. Weston, both of my brothers are should be watching right now. They might be in the chat there. Donnie recently is kind of going through his own version of what I went through before, and it's a very difficult thing, as you probably already know. Have you spoken to many Jehovah's Witnesses, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses before?
I have, yes.
Okay. All right. So your listeners probably know quite a bit about the religion then. It's very insular, very control-oriented kind of religion. Like they really, they're very interested in your personal life, what you're doing, the kind of music that you're listening to, the kind of movies that you're watching, whether you're regularly attending their meetings, whether you're going out and you're knocking on doors, trying to wake other people up to the end of the world that's coming soon. So
I thought they didn't like woke people.
Well, Jehovah's Witnesses actually, believe it or not, they're one of the more diverse religions that are out there. That's one credit that I will give them. I did grow up with some racism in my life, and I did learn quite a bit of racism in my life. But most of that did not actually come from my religion. Most of it kind of came from the area that I lived in, and my family. It was more like they're old people, and they have these crazy ideas that they were brought up with as well. Not openly malicious, but they, as far as like the religion, you got white Jesus, you got white Moses, they're all white in my book of Bible stories and stuff like that. But as far as like diversity, Jehovah's Witnesses are kind of ahead of the curve.
That's I guess we've got to give them one positive. That would be it.
Sure. Yeah, there are some positives that I can give to them.
The one religion that has a limit to how many people in the heaven is the only one being diverse. Damn.
Very tasty.
You're exactly right. 144,000. That's how many people they believe are going. Which is funny that the numbers of people that are actually think that they're going to heaven has actually gone up in the recent years. So, which you think that would be slowing down a little bit, but it is not. anyways, I don't know. Do you want me to just talk a little bit about like, my childhood and things like that? Or do you want to ask questions?
Yeah. So kind of just for your story, you'll probably have to start somewhere near the beginning. So it may not have to be, I got my first Bible at age 4. No, maybe not that granular, but just kind of like, what do you remember about being young? Like, so your JW, so like, was there like Sunday school or what kind of like indoctrination or anything did you experience when you were younger?
Well, there's no like Sunday school per se. There are things that they would call like theocratic ministry school, where you learn to be like a better minister, going to doors, knocking on people's doors, things like that. But whenever I was young, we went to the Kingdom Hall.
Did they consider everyone to be sort of like a minister?
Yeah, actually, once you started studying with the Jehovah's Witnesses, and once you decided that this is something that you wanted to pursue, they started calling you what they call a publisher. And as a publisher, you are expected to go out with other Jehovah's Witnesses and go to doors and preach to people, hand out their literature, start Bible studies.
Watchtower.
Like yes, exactly. Watchtower and Awake magazine. They have a lot of books and magazines that go back to the 1800s. They go back very, very far with Charles Taze Russell, who is the founder of the religion. But yeah, it was 3 days a week. Sundays was, if I'm recalling correctly, it was roughly about a little over 2 hours or so on a Sunday morning. Tuesday night we had a book study, which was maybe about an hour, and that was more of a small group. They broke the congregation up into smaller groups, and on Tuesday night, then they would meet in groups of roughly 15, 20 people, and they would have like a book study. Study whatever book that they released that was on a particular subject, like the Revelation book. Everybody, especially Doomsday Christians, love that Revelation book. That's one thing that I grew up with, and the imagery in it is quite intense for a kid.
After you work through the BGATs for about 7,000 hours, it's nice to get like some dragons, some fire, brimstone.
Human-headed scorpions with wings and lion bodies or horse bodies. Yeah, those things are crazy.
And we also
speaking of books, my friend Aunt Jur has a Ohioan test for you. What university is OSU?
Ohio State University. That's the one that lost today to the Michigan Wolverines.
There you go.
The Ohio State.
Yes. Yeah, that V is very important to it for whatever reason. I don't live that far from campus, actually. It's it's not too far away. But anyways, the Thursday night book study, or not book study, excuse me, the Thursday night ministry school. As I explained to you, I started from a very early age, probably I think about 8 or 9 years old, giving talks, which is in front of roughly sometimes up to about 100, 120 people. And you would be given a set of scriptures. And that's one thing I will give to Jehovah's Witnesses is they read the whole Bible, the entire Bible. They don't just pick and choose. I mean, they do some cherry picking and stuff. But
probably for sermon purposes.
Yeah, every member of the religion if they spend any time in the religion, they hear the entire Bible, all the good, the bad, and the ugly, warts and all.
I'm surprised it doesn't create more atheists, to be honest. Or do they have a way of making it seem?
Well, whenever you, of course, you've talked to a lot of people who've deconverted, so you're very familiar with the fact that fear is a great motivator for cohesiveness.
Yeah.
So, but honestly, with Jehovah's Witnesses, the retention for people that are like me, that grew up as Jehovah's Witnesses, is very, very low. Really, roughly only about a third of people who grew up as Jehovah's Witnesses the way that I did stick with it. It's about 66% that leave. So about 2/3 that leave Jehovah's Witnesses.
66%.
Yes.
66.6%.
Saw that one coming.
Lightning crash behind my head.
So you can understand how important it is to go out and knock on people's doors and bring more people in, because the kids just don't stay with it for the most part. Kids don't.
Today's day and age, for sure, more and more like Zillennials for sure are just leaving it in droves because they can't handle it. It's like, this is because they grow up with the knowledge that we now have. Same with, millennials and even Gen Xers like myself and stuff. We started because science was so much more prominent after like the 50s and stuff like that.
Mhm.
That people are just like, this, none of this meshes. So the whole religious belief started on the decline, I would say, right at that point when science became way more prevalent.
Sure, and for better or for worse, the internet, which is, we've also been snowed under with a lot of misinformation as well. But it's also opened up a lot of people to things that you didn't get. Like whenever I was a kid, this sounds very strange. Do you know about the governing body of the Jehovah's Witnesses? There's a group of men in New York that run the thing for everyone. There's about roughly 8.5 million Jehovah's Witnesses, I think now, as the latest numbers. There's a group of men in New York that run the whole thing. They call all the shots. They're believed to be God's representatives on earth. It doesn't mean they're infallible like the Pope or anything, but it does mean that they're the ones who are receiving divine inspiration. But whenever I was a kid, you could ask a Jehovah's Witness who these people are, and almost all of them could tell you, I don't know who it is. That really started changing once you had the internet, and Jehovah's Witnesses, they kind of came a little late to the game on that with the jw.org. They got a big studio and they started actually doing broadcasts and really upping their media game. And so now Jehovah's Witnesses know who, like the Tony, Tight Pants Tony, what's his name?
Tony Stark.
Tony Stark, decidedly less cool than Tony Stark. Tony Morris or something like that, I think is what his name is. But before, whenever I was a kid, you didn't hear about these kind of people. They were just kind of in the shadows making the decision. That was one of the things that they told us as well. They don't want that fame. They don't want this to go to their heads and stuff. And now you see them, they're all over the place. But yeah, the internet, I'm sorry, I get on these rabbit trails all the time.
It's you're right, Tony Morris.
Pardon?
Morris, yeah.
Tony Morris, yeah. Tight Pants Tony, they call him, because he was for a while there, he was really railing against the men in the congregation wearing tight pants. He said that was a homosexual thing.
Jeez.
Very bigoted. That's one thing that I had to unlearn. So
we're not wearing pants that come up to like here. So
that's different. Like if it's hugging your chest, that's okay.
I like my suspenders around nipple height. That's how I know my pants are secured.
But yeah, they did. I mean, as a child, I honestly did learn some good things. They taught me to be an honest person. They taught me to be a hard worker. They taught me to care for the people around me. Although the people that were outside of my group, those people were all going to die. So don't, go out and preach to them, but don't feel bad whenever God comes and strikes them down with sulfur and fire from the sky, that kind of thing. But no, there was good things, and there was also a lot of shame. Of course, with most religions, they see God as an omnipotent, omniscient being that sees everything that you do. And whenever this God is a very judgmental kind of person, whenever you're a child and you're developing, there's a lot of cause for shame in this, because somebody is seeing the things that are happening to you, these changes that you're going through, and you're told that they're wrong. So shame is one thing that I learned, and still to this day have to deal with because of that religion. So not all good coming from them. The shame and the fear are probably one of the greatest reasons I think that a lot of the kids leave, because I think that they see this world outside of their insular community, and they see that people are not so bad. Once they go out and but not a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses go to college, but some of them do. They go to their jobs and they see people, and they see happy people that don't look like they're hated by God. They see people that appear to be blessed, but at least by their own definition of blessings. And I think that they feel that baggage, because not all religions, not all people that are religious carry the same kind of baggage that someone like a Jehovah's Witness does. I think that exposure has done also a lot, besides the internet, has done also a lot to bring people away from that religion as well.
Exposure?
Yeah. Yes. Whenever, they try to be as insular as possible. Like whenever I was a Jehovah's Witness growing up in school, I wasn't allowed to have what they call worldly friends. You might have heard that term before from other Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yes.
I wasn't allowed to go to their birthday parties or any parties, really. I mean, that they don't celebrate.
Jehovah's Witnesses don't celebrate their own birthdays.
Yes, right. Yeah, and not their own birthdays.
Or Christmas either.
No Christmas, no New Year's, no Halloween, definitely no Halloween. But no Thanksgiving even, which is funny. I was just talking about
that
to
has
my
nothing
brothers.
to do with religion,
right? You would think it has nothing to do with it, but there's always a way that they can say, well, this is going to lead you more into a worldly way of thinking. So there's always something that they can bring into
your harvest.
Yeah,
for being
worldly.
Yeah, that I was looking at that turkey. It was scratching a pentagram into the dirt before they put it in the oven. I don't know about this whole Thanksgiving thing. You guys might be wrong about it.
And every Satan.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, though, is because all these things are on sale, they'll still have the meal. A lot of them will. What we did, we'd had turkey or we'd have ham and we'd have mashed potatoes and stuff. We just didn't call it Thanksgiving. So kind of a hypocritical thing to do, but that's what we did. But
it's just food, though. But yeah, sure. I mean,
yeah, it's just food. I mean, that's I guess the way that we justified it. But I mean, I'm sure that it kind of tinged their consciences a little bit whenever they do something like that. But I don't know, silly things.
Have you had a birthday party since?
Oh yeah. I mean, of course.
What did you do for your first birthday party out of being a JW?
The whole city knows about its birthday party.
Did you do the hats? Kazoo,
I was in my 20s. I think what we did was we just had some, because we didn't have a lot of money either. I think we just had some drinks and some food. I'm boring. I'm sorry. I'm very boring. But yeah, nothing too extreme.
I don't even get out of bed for my birthday anymore. So big boy.
But no, I've been lucky enough that actually, whenever I left Jehovah's Witnesses, which I'm not sure if you're ready to come to that part of the story yet, but I didn't leave alone. So there was that. I had my boy's mother. We were together for 12 years, basically. At the time I was 18, until I was 30, we were together.
Was she a Jehovah's Witness as well?
She was. Her family was much less strict than mine. They're from Indianapolis, and so.
That explains it.
Yeah. So, right. We talked about the insularity of the congregation, right?
City folk.
Yeah. Right. Well, in a small town, it's even easier to be insular, but in a big town, it's much, much harder. You have so much more exposure to everybody else. So, whenever I went to visit, whenever Donnie was dating her sister, which they ended up getting married. They've been married for 22 years now. Whenever Donnie was visiting her sister, I went with him, and like I heard Jehovah's Witnesses saying a word "pissed off." I was like, "What?" I was taken aback. I was shocked. I'd never heard that before in my life. So, yeah, there was a bit of a different upbringing, but it's roughly the same thing. Jehovah's Witnesses are there's not a lot of fracturing in between, but you do have, like, big city Jehovah's Witnesses do have different expectations, I guess.
I got them electrified organs at them city churches.
But yeah, she was a Jehovah's Witness, and her whole family still is, except for her mom. I think has finally left, Judy. But it's been something more in the past, more recent. So it's I don't really have a lot of contact with her family so much. I do some. My brother, like I said, he married her sister, my ex-wife's sister. So there's a little bit of contact there, but not a whole lot. But my boy, I have one boy, but I have a big family. I've got an extended family. I just got married, actually.
Hey.
We got a big house full of kids and pets and stuff. But yeah, I go over there from time to time, and I see some people that I knew from one time. But she actually, we went through it together. We were kind of, as I got later into my teens, as it's a common story with most very religious people. You start to have a lot of dissonance between how you think and how the religion expects you to behave. So I got baptized when I was, I guess that was 4/6/96. So I would have been 14 years old, which is not, it's not old for that, but I had people at the time, they were like, why aren't you getting baptized yet? It's, that constant pressure of like, you need to be baptized. So I did, I got into that. And then it wasn't very long after that, honestly, I started having, a lot of issues. And it's not like that the teenage years were really the beginning of the disturbing things with the religion. There are things that if you read the whole Bible that you're going to be exposed to that are shocking. And there's things that I specifically remember. Are you familiar with, do you care if I show you a scripture?
Do your
No,
thing, dude.
that's fine.
You're good.
There's Genesis. Okay, I'm sorry. You're probably familiar with Genesis, with the story of Lot.
Yes.
Okay,
The
Lot
guy with the
and Sodom
bagels.
with the bagels.
Lots bagels. There's a connection there. I do. I have very bad jokes, but I deliver them very well. So don't mind me. Don't mind me.
Well, he went to he lived in Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Well, there's a story that about the angels coming to stay in Sodom and Gomorrah, and he takes them in and all that. Well, there's almost an identical story, and you probably already know this. There's almost an identical story that takes place in Judges in chapter 19 and verse 22. It's almost identical. It's not quite identical. There's a man, and I don't think that he has a name in the chapter, but he has a concubine, and they end up going to this town of Gibeah, right? So when they get to this town, they're just kind of passing through. It's not an Israelite town, and they advised him not to stay there, and they decide to stay anyways. So he and his concubine and the servants with him and stuff, they go, and they're going to spend the night in the square, the city square. And so an old man sees them, and he's like, I'll take care of anything that you need. He's like, just don't stay the night in the square. This is going to be terrible. Come back home with me. So they follow him home. They come into his home, and while they're there, and they're having their food and their drinks and washing up and all that stuff, there's the knock at the door. And this is just like the story of Lot. There's the knock at the door, and the men of the city are there, and they're saying, oh, well, you need to send out this man so that we can have sex with him. So
bring them out. Bring them out.
So in this story, and the one in Judges, okay, in the one in Genesis, Lot actually offers his own daughters, if you remember.
Yes.
He doesn't have to give his daughters for this because the angels intervene. They step outside, and they blinding flash of light, and they blind the men of the city who come to the door. But in Judges, it's a different story. The old man actually offers one of his daughters, I think, and then the man with the concubine offers his concubine, and she is sent outside, and content warning, but they rape her to death all night long. He goes out onto the step, and imagine reading this as a 6-7-year-old boy. They rape her all night long. He leaves the house the following morning, and he sees her on the doorstep, and he's like, get up, it's time to go. And she doesn't move, of course, and they realize that she's dead. So what do they do after that? They cut up her body into 12 pieces, and they send it to the 12 tribes of Israel.
Sounds right. Like you do.
Like you do. But reading this as a 5-6-year-old kid, I was absolutely shook by this. As well as the story of Lot.
At least you weren't listening to Will Smith or something worldly. That could be damaging.
Exactly.
Can't have you getting jiggy with it or something like that, whatever that means.
Oh, in my time, I'm 41 years old. Dungeons and Dragons, gummy bears, Smurfs, things like that. That was all taboo. But you can read this.
Gummy bears.
No Gargamel.
No gummy bears. There was magic in the gummy bears. No Gargamel. Yeah. No.
Well,
it
depends on where you buy them, I guess.
Yeah.
I've had some magical gummy bears.
Oh my God. You guys just keep rubbing it in.
Sorry. Sorry. Let's let me have a sip of my THC infused water.
Hold on. Dave had a good one.
Sure.
He said, I wasn't pressured into getting baptized but I was told, wow, now that you're 12, you can get baptized. So lucky. When are you going to do it? So I got dunked. So I misread that. And I thought he said something. I was like, damn, I thought you got pressure baptized, like 450 PSI. Like they just had like a tank back there. They just, all right, we're going to do all of you guys in 10 seconds.
It was part of his Super Saiyan training.
Yeah. There's pressure baptized. So sprayed him with the nozzle. So like you and your wife, so are you and your wife disfellowshipped? Does that mean like no one from that part of your life will ever contact you, or is everybody not so hard and fast with that one?
No, she's not currently my wife. I did get married again here recently, but we haven't been together with the former Jehovah's Witness since 2012, whenever we split. But what we did is we lied. Honestly, we got in trouble. It was for smoking pot. They found out in the Kingdom Hall. I told the wrong person, and they found out in the Kingdom Hall that we had both been smoking pot. And they decided that we weren't repentant enough, and so we were disfellowshipped. A lot of the family didn't even know this, but they knew that we were disfellowshipped for whatever reason. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the family, we still had some contact, but these are the only people that you've known for your entire life,
right?
Because this is the people that you have parties with. This is the people that show up whenever somebody gets injured or whatever. These are the only people that you're allowed to have any kind of relationship with, and then it's done. It's gone.
Cut you off.
They won't acknowledge you in public. I won't even say hello. Not all of them were like that. I mean, some of our family, her mom, my ex's mom, would still speak to us, and some members of my family. I think my brothers might have spoke to me a bit. And Weston still would, I think, but we didn't have, it's the early 2000s. There wasn't a lot of, contact going on. He was also very young. But yeah, it was a really hard thing. And to feel that, to be on the receiving end of that, although I had a lot of misgivings about being a Jehovah's Witness at the time, to actually feel that really did something to the both of us. So, once you have everybody who friends and family in your life basically treat you like you're dead, what else do? You start reaching out for other things. So while we did that, though, I started learning about like Ray Franz. Do you know Ray Franz? He was a former governing body member until the early 80s, I think, whenever he got disfellowshipped.
I don't think I know who that is.
There's a book called Crisis of Conscience, and it is an infamous book among Jehovah's Witnesses, among current Jehovah's Witnesses, because it is the apostate book, because it is a former governing body member who wrote a book about everything that is wrong with Jehovah's Witnesses and the things that he experienced as a governing body member. That he objected to, and the kind of things that took place anyways. I read Crisis of Conscience. I ordered that I found it online and had it delivered to myself, and I read it, cover to cover. And,
real quick.
Yeah.
I just looked him up on Wikipedia. It says Franz was born in 1922. His uncle Frederick Franz was influential in the denomination's development, practices, and doctrines. His father, associated with the Bible study movement from which Jehovah's Witnesses developed, was baptized in 1913. Georgia. So this guy is like founding fathers level of Jehovah's Witnesses. So you're saying like he's the one that wrote the book about everything that was going on. Oh, so it's not just like a stray sheep.
No. Yeah, he is, like I say, he is infamous. Absolutely infamous.
He was the guy.
Yes. So I read that. I also, because the internet, we're talking about the early 2000s, and I was in a small town. We still were on dial-up. You remember the old modem noises and stuff.
Broadband.
But I would, I could find things online about the history of Jehovah's Witnesses, and I started reading about the guy that was known as Judge Rutherford, who was he was the successor to the original founder of Jehovah's Witnesses, Charles Taze Russell. Rutherford took over for him. And I found out about like Beth Sareen, which is this place out in Sacramento, California. It's in California, anyways, and it's this mansion that he basically lived in during the Great Depression, drinking as much as he wants with these, like, it's something crazy, like a 16-cylinder. He had like 2 16-cylinder cars, living like a king at this place, while everybody else is starving and dying and can't get a damn drink. But
I don't want to take the Rolls Royce again. Perhaps the Bentley. Perhaps.
living like an absolute king out there. I learned about that, and that was another thing that, you know, I already knew at the time, but it helped to kind of ease the way through that process. But at the time, you know, we still, while we were learning these things, we wanted to continue to have a relationship with our family, because it really hurts, you know, to not being able to talk to your mother and your father and your brothers.
Yeah, no shit.
And you do just about anything to kind of make that go away. And I'm not happy about it. I'm not proud of it, but we lied. We said that we were repenting. And one of the governing bodies, there was a governing body member, or not governing body, a circuit overseer who came through at the time. And he's like, why are these people still disfellowshipped? We should, you know, why aren't they back in yet? So he kind of sped us along, and we got back in. We were reinstated. I think it was early 2003. And so after that, really, we left the small town Kingdom Hall that I was in, and we went to Indianapolis, and we faded, which is something that happens with a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses. The luckier ones can just kind of fade away. And once you are able to successfully fade, they just don't show up anymore. So you kind of are able to get out of that situation without too much consequences. So over the years, yeah, honestly, I've still had a lot, because my mother and my father are still very much Jehovah's Witnesses, and my brothers can attest to it. They're sending literature all the time, and they're sending you links to the Jehovah's Witness website. They want you to come back, and so we've had to butt heads over this, and they've tried to indoctrinate my son, you know, their grandson, and we've had to kind of butt heads over it. I prefer not to. I've told them both, you know, that nobody is going to win in this situation. You're not going to change. I'm not going to change. We can argue about it, but everybody is going to lose at the end of that argument, because they're in their 70s. You know, I'm not trying to change their lives. I'm not trying to break their foundations. You know, it's not something that it's a tough thing anyways. Even if you're kind of on your way and getting ready to have those foundations broken, it's a hard thing, but I would not wish that on my parents, you know? So I told mom, you know, I've told mom mainly, as the one I talk to, that I don't want to talk about it. And if you bring it up, we can have the discussion, we can argue about it, but we're all going to lose. So for the most part, we've been able to kind of stay off of that battlefield, and still have a distant relationship. But there is a huge divide in the family.
And do you think, like, the fear of being disfellowship, because again, this is like, it's not just like, oh, this is who you hang out with on Sunday. This is like the people who come to like the parties, and for pretty much every social event, like that group of people. So like that threat of even just the threat of disfellowship, and you're kind of like being cast out in a totally worldly world full of demons and Satans and all the other worst things, and now you have no backup.
Exactly.
So do you think like that kind of like pressuring and posturing is why they keep people for so long? But then at the end of the question is, you're saying their numbers are going down. What do you think is that flip, so that people kind of realize that it's okay to not just have this social structure anymore?
The numbers, let me be specific. Their numbers aren't going down so much as they are stagnating. So they will eventually, unless there's a huge change for some reason, they will eventually go down. But for right now, the growth is very, very slow, especially whenever you compare it to the 90s and so on. But yeah, the fear of disfellowshipping, the fear is a wonderful tool for, I say wonderful, it's an effective tool
Useful.
for keeping people in check. Extremely useful. And we see that with politics as well as religion, which I'm not going to get into. But
Right.
absolutely, they're terrified. And you have many people that will just kind of go through the motions. And in order to successfully leave the religion myself, I did a fair bit of that. I would still show up, it was less and less, but I would show up to the Kingdom Hall. I would keep my mouth shut. I would be seen there. I would go home. And then I would start missing a meeting here and there. And then I would start missing an assembly. You're familiar with the assemblies. There's circuit assemblies, district assemblies. This is like maybe 3 times a year, 2 or 3 times a year. You have a district assembly, which has in Ohio was held in Columbus. The district assembly had roughly 5,000 to 6,000 people there. And then you had circuit assemblies, which had, more like around the range of 2,000 people or so, which is just a smaller breakdown because it's all divided up. They're very organized. They have a very organized territory all across the whole world. In fact, I'm starting to get off the topic. Most of the growth, because we were talking about growth, most of the growth happens outside of the United States. We're talking mostly about South and Central America, places that are not so fortunate as we are, tend to be where they grow the best. And of course, they face persecution in some other lands, like Russia. I believe that they're not allowed to officially exist and face persecution in Russia. There's other countries. Russia's the main one that I know of. But yeah, absolutely, fear plays a tremendous role. And I think it just gets to a point, though, with so many people that you can't ignore it anymore. But if you're a man or a woman and you are having these doubts and you have a family and they are Jehovah's Witnesses, what's going to happen? You have no idea what's going to happen. You might lose your husband or your wife. Your kids might not speak to you anymore. The uncertainty is enough to push those feelings down, although it still happens often enough that people, get out of the religion. But certainly there's a lot of people that are on their rolls currently, that are in their members currently, that would not be there otherwise.
Boatload of coins on that one.
Did you have something new?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Did you?
No, I thought you were about to say something. Like I thought I had something to say, but then I was like, I'll hold it back. I think it's Neil's turn. So I would.
One thing that, unless you have something that you wanted to bring up, there is one thing that I definitely want to get, and probably before the end of our discussion, there's definitely one thing that I want to get across to the people that are listening tonight, and that is that you are not alone. You're absolutely not alone.
That's why I do this.
Yeah, you have people to reach out to. There can be a plan. It may feel like that there's no way, but there are people that can help you make a plan to deal with these important things in your life that seem insurmountable, because maybe you lost your faith. Maybe something terrible has happened to you that you feel like you can't talk to anybody about. There is help out there. So please don't feel alone. Definitely you have safe friends. Find your safe friends. You could talk to me. I'm nobody. I'm absolutely nobody, but you're more than welcome to talk to me.
Oh, you're not nobody.
No, I am. I'm happy to be.
Hey, being nobody is where it's at. Like everybody knows about you, but they don't know much about you. That's where you want to be. It's a nice sweet spot. You want to get too much attention. Start ringing on your doorbell again. Did you? Oh, that was what I was going to ask. So, do you have any like knock on door highlights, lowlights?
Nothing really that impressive. I mean, you got a lot of people that would show up in their underwear or show up naked.
I was about to say, any naked people.
As a kid, you don't know quite how to take that kind of thing. Because I mean, it's a kid. I mean, you're showing up naked at your door, but it does happen from time to time. The scariest thing was I was at a door with who was my best friend at the time. His name, I'm not going to say his name, but his name was the same as mine, Justin. But there was a guy who we were out in the country and doing our witnessing work, and
oh boy,
we were talking to one man at the door, and another man passed by him, and I didn't understand what he said at first, but then Justin behind me said, he just said he's got a gun. So he walked back across, behind the other man who was talking to us at the door, and he had a shotgun in his hand. So I was like, okay, goodbye. So
we'll come back later. It looks like you got company here. I don't want to interrupt. We're just gonna skedaddle on.
It's funny you mentioned the Justin thing. I had a friend that many years back who I went to school with. His name was Justin, and his last name was Howard. Justin Howard was his name. So we used to bug him because he had two first names. But anyway,
first names.
The funny part is when his mom, after his father passed away, I can't remember exactly what it was some form of cancer. But years later, his mom got remarried, and the fellow that she remarried's last name was Case.
Oh no!
So he became Justin Case. He kept Howard because he thought the other one was just ridiculous.
It's like, oh no, little Ben's mom got remarried to Mr. Dover. Well, that's not going to be great.
Ben Dover. Yeah, but anyways, I thought I'd just share that little tidbit of a funny little story with you.
Yeah, no, it's. I wish that I had more funny stories to tell you. Honestly, for the most part, I've tried to ignore, the past of being a Jehovah's Witness, and it's been forced back into my life in a lot of different cases.
Right.
2013, I had somebody who was very much like a brother to me died because of one of their, doctrines, the no blood doctrine.
Oh, wow.
So, it's one of those things, 2013, I didn't have a lot to do with Jehovah's Witnesses. I'd mostly had them out of my life. I had the occasional experience with mom and dad, and that anger was really brought back at that time. Because you have this man who is, he could be kind of an asshole sometime, but he was a genius, absolutely brilliant man who loved his family, loved his friends, loved me, and he was gone because they couldn't take a blood transfusion.
That still blows me away. As a blood donor, I haven't donated in a while because of my blood thinning pills that I'm taking, but as a blood donor, that just angers me because I do it to save people's lives.
The thing that really it drives me nuts too is because blood transfusion had already saved, speaking of our family, blood transfusion had already saved someone very important in their lives. My wife at the time, whenever she gave birth to our son, was bleeding so badly internally that she had to have a lot of blood. And just because we were Jehovah's Witnesses is the only reason why we weren't Jehovah's Witnesses at the time is the only reason why she's still alive. So it's like Brian was married to her sister, and Alicia survived. I probably shouldn't have said her name, but they survived. Brian did not because of the doctrine that they have about blood.
And what is that? Is there something scriptural that they're using, or is there just something from the leadership council or whatever it's called? Why do they think that?
It's Old Testament, okay? It's Old Testament. There is a scripture about not eating blood. It says that the blood, it belongs to Jehovah, and it's supposed to be poured out on the land whenever you make a kill, like you're hunting or whatever.
Okay.
You're not to eat any blood. They're terrified. I've never had a decent steak for my entire childhood because my parents were terrified that there was going to be blood in that steak. It was burnt. Every steak I ever had was burnt in my life before I was an adult.
So you had some leather.
Did they realize? Okay, did they not realize that it's actually not blood, that they're seeing a red dye?
No, they had no clue. No, they hadn't.
They
had absolutely no
desanguinate.
clue.
They desanguinate the animals
Right.
at the plant.
Right. The blood
Yeah,
is
yeah.
gone. It just looks red. It just looks juicy, and the meat is pink. But they are so terrified of that, they would never. Dad gets his extra well done because they are terrified of having any blood. But there's
I'm a
there's
blue
scripture.
rare kind of guy. You flip it on there for like 5 seconds. Flip it over
But
to the
the
other
first
side.
time I had a medium
Put it on
rare,
the
I was
syrup.
like, oh my God, I never realized steak was so good. It was so good.
Everything's slowed down, and it's just like it gets like that nice filter on everything. There's sparkles in the air. Barry
brother.
White music.
But yeah, the scripture,
Yeah,
the scripture says that, but it also, if you go a few verses one way or another, you're also told that you can't eat shrimp. Where do we draw the line? They do eat shrimp. Yeah, there's no problem eating shrimp. Okay, here's one that says you can't eat shrimp. Here's one that says you can't eat catfish. You can't eat pork. Here's one that says you can't be a homosexual. Yeah, no catfish.
Oh, hell no. Done. This is no.
That's right. I can't eat what? Who the hell are you? Tell me I can't.
It
eat
must not be no Jehovah's Witnesses.
Bacon. I'm not. Yeah.
But like these,
ain't no Jehovah's Witnesses in St. Louis. I can tell you that because catfish is a staple.
Well, no, Jehovah's Witnesses now will eat catfish. But I mean, if you look in the Bible, this is the kind of fish that they weren't allowed to eat. This is like a bottom feeder kind of fish that they weren't allowed to eat. So like you've got these things right next to one another, like in the Bible, the Leviticus. Go down the line. No shrimp. Okay, if you're gay, they kill you. Okay, but over here you can't wear mixed fabrics. So picking and choosing all these things, yeah, that's a crazy thing to do. Like, why is it? Because it's, shrimp is good. That's why. That's why we eat shrimp now. Pork is good. That's why we eat pork now. But the homosexuality. Yeah. But yeah, that was something that, like, I try my best to forget about these things. I really do, but it is constantly introduced into my life again and again and again. And it's no, my parents did the best that they could.
Right.
There's somebody who shared a video very recently that have you ever seen the movie Hook?
You
Dustin
mean the
Hoffman?
single greatest movie of the 1990s? Yes, I have.
Okay, for anybody who hasn't, Dustin Hoffman, like you've got Robin Williams, you've got Maggie, what's her name? Maggie Smith.
Yes.
Is in it as well.
Julia Roberts,
yeah,
a young Julia Roberts as Tink.
Yeah, well, it's a really cool movie. I watched it. I think the last time I watched it, I was either very young or I was a kid. But there's a scene in the movie, and somebody recently shared this, and it's where Hook has Robin Williams, Peter Pan's son, right? He's got him kidnapped, but he's kind of, Jack. Yeah, he's kind of having Jack warm up to him and stuff. And he's saying, because Jack had a really hard upbringing. His father is an alcoholic. He doesn't spend a lot of time. He spends most of his time doing business, and not making it to his not making it to his baseball games. So Hook is like, I understand that. I feel that, you're allowed to, you can break any clock in here. And he's like, your father will come for you again, but you have to decide, are you ready? But like, what he was telling Jack is like, one of the things that really stood out there was, it's not that your father didn't save you, because Jack was upset that he was trapped in the net and his dad was there and he was supposed to be Peter Pan, but he didn't save him.
Come on, Dad, just reach out and touch us.
Exactly.
Come on, Dad.
You have a really good memory of that movie.
Yes.
But it wasn't that he didn't save him. It wasn't that he didn't want to save him. It's that he couldn't. And that's a perfect analogy for parents like this. That my mom and dad, they have their faults like any other person in this planet, like me.
Right.
But they couldn't do anything else. This is all that they had to offer. So I don't. The anger still comes, but I try to realize that they weren't able to offer me anything else, or my brothers. And it helps. It helps to kind of I thought that was a really good illustration. Hook. I may have told it and not explained it very well, but
Oh,
I thought it was a very good illustration.
You're preaching to the choir. I resonated with every single syllable because that is one of my favorite movies. And more recently, I had one of those heart-to-hearts with my mom. My mom's still a believer and all that stuff. And every time I bring up something atheist, she's like, stop saying that. You're not atheist. Don't say that. I'm like, anyways, as an atheist, because I'm still an annoying teenager. But we had like a good 2-hour conversation. Towards the end, I was like, and don't think for a second, I'm like, I'm still mad at you. Because I believe that you were just trying to do your best. You're doing what you thought in your head was the right thing to do for your kid, and having kids is scary, and you were trying. It was wrong, but you weren't doing it out of malice. Like, you didn't do this to me because you wanted me to be unhappy. You thought you were saving my life.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
Did you have effort, but I'm good.
Did you have a lot of siblings too?
I have two real sisters and 3 step siblings.
Have they stuck with your religious upbringing?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Everybody
so you are the black
me.
sheep.
Yeah.
You are the black sheep. Okay.
Yeah. Just me.
So none of my parents' children have followed them into this. We had the closest one that we had was my older brother, who stuck with it for 30 some years of his life before moving away. But the none of the kids, my youngest brother, he constantly tells me, thank you so much for helping me not get baptized, because if he had, it would have been a very painful, leaving. But we were able to, I was able to talk to my little brother and kind of tell him, look, at once you decide to put your head under the water, if you want to leave, it's going to be a really, really hard thing to do. It's going to be a really hard time. But yeah, none of us, like, I have 2 full brothers. I've got 2 half brothers and a sister. None of us have stuck with Jehovah's Witnesses. I wonder sometimes how my parents feel about that. I wonder if they think that maybe it was a failure of theirs, or maybe it might make them feel like maybe something we're doing isn't right. Maybe Jehovah's Witnesses aren't right. I don't know. I don't think that's kind of wonder.
And that's kind of half the reason why I wanted to like actually have the convo with my mom, is just like, you can clearly see I'm not a bad person. I didn't grow up to be like this, I don't know, scoundrel that was promised to me as a teenager if I didn't stay in the church. Sure. Like, I would just be this awful person.
Sure.
It's like, well, that didn't really happen. And I understand why you're doing all this stuff. So I just wanted her to know, like, I'm still a good person. I still do good in the world. I still do my best to make the ones around me happy. And I don't use this to do it. So I'm a good person despite what you're trying to do. And so don't worry about it. Like, you know what I mean? So maybe it'll help her and if she wants to deconvert later on in life. But it's just kind of like hey, you still got a good person as a son, even if he's an atheist, even if you think that's wrong. That's up for you to square that round peg. You know what I mean? To put that round peg in the square hole. Like, you got to figure that out. But
most people in a church would call them a preacher or a minister, but we had we called them elders. His name was Roger Cheney. He used to tell this story about how he was a really bad person before he became one of Jehovah's Witnesses. He was into drugs and drinking, and like, he was an abusive person and all that stuff. And he would tell us, like, I think he said that also, if I'm remembering right, he didn't read or anything like that, but this whole thing changed him, turned him around. But I remember very specifically him giving a couple of talks saying, if it weren't for the truth, is what they call it, if it weren't for the truth of Jehovah's Witnesses, he would be doing all these things, because that's the kind of person that he is. And I'm like, what an asshole. Really? Honestly? You really need, you need a magic guy in the sky in order to behave yourself. So
right.
That person who does that, I'm sorry, but that is a person with problems.
I got into a screaming match with like a coworker who came over just to drink and play 2K, and it turned into a fucking theological debate where he was like, I would be doing X, Y, Z, and da da da. I was like, well, don't fucking do that. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why would you want to do that? Like, that's wrong. That's
Right.
wrong for a million reasons. It's not just because I don't believe in anything. I'm like, let the murdering commence. Like, no, I don't want to murder anybody. I just want to go to work and play 2K and drink with you. But here we are.
That's honestly, that's one of the things that like I feel more right. I wouldn't say righteous so much, but I feel more
Vindicated.
Yeah, like with my because I do have a lot of values still, you know, they're not anything like the values that I had before in most cases, but to have these values and not be because you are afraid of Sky Daddy raining down fire on you, you know, whenever, because we didn't grow up believing in hell, but there's still I had the image in my head of Armageddon coming and the cities are on fire and, you know, I'm standing there with my family and God shoots down a sulfur bullet and just plows through my head and my family's like, too bad.
All you hear is headshot. Be the bullet.
Like 10,000 points shows up above my head.
There's a scoreboard. He's playing Smite FPS just out there. Running around like Master Chief. Running around smiting people with grenades. Now, if that was what God was about, I'd see his ass on a battlefield. That'd be fun. But alas, he's just out here to make sure people don't eat fucking shrimp and sleep with people.
Yeah, the architect of the entire universe is that concerned about what you're doing with your little fiddly bits. That's
Which are designed all wrong anyway.
Yeah.
I think it was like Neil deGrasse Tyson or something. It's like, who puts the sewer waste,
yes!
the sewer treatment plant right next to the amusement park?
Yes.
Like, you put those in two opposite sides of the fairgrounds. You don't put them right next to each other.
Yeah, no. Really poorly designed.
This perfect design.
Yeah, like I saw a picture earlier of Ken Ham talking about the perfection of the human eye while he's wearing glasses.
Yeah.
Amoxicillin says this on Twitch. What's up, Amoxicillin? Our eyes are upside down. Like what? Like like everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything's
corrected inside.
Everything's broken, but perfect, flawless design made of clay, I guess. Dirt, carbon,
yeah. Clay, and a rib if you're a woman.
And I needed that rib. That's my favorite rib. I can't do all my. See, men, we'd all have 7-packs if women hadn't stolen that rib. But there's nowhere for the muscle to anchor to. So we're almost out of time here. So what would you say to former Jehovah's Witness you, knowing what you know now?
To me? Yep. Oh my goodness. That's a really excellent question, because there's no way that I would be the same person that I am today. And the only reason why I'm not a terrible person, honestly, is because I learned from people. You know, I don't know, you know, I think my first instinct would be to say, run, you know, as fast as you can, get the hell out of there. But going through the experience, I think that we all kind of need that, you know, not to say that it's good or that it's right, but who else would we be? There's no way to say. Who else would we be if we didn't go through the terrible things and the wonderful things and all of the things that make us who we are today? So, you know, I don't think I would. I think that maybe
words
just a nudge,
words of encouragement,
maybe just like, do not be, you know, maybe just like, don't feel bad, don't feel alone. You know, there are people out there. This isn't something that you have to do. Those kind of things. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, this is, don't feel alone. You're not trapped.
I like it. I like it. Well, Neil, we're just at the hour there, big guy.
I know. I just noticed that.
And
Sorry.
the coins are going buck wild. Ollie.
I'm sorry. I've been slightly distracted this last little few minutes because my sister and I. See, my mom went in for her first dialysis for her. Now she's got to go every 3 days. She's got to do this every 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And last night, she was quite distraught about it all. So my sister and I were kind of keeping an eye on her and whatnot. So calling her constantly and stuff like that. So she apparently is doing better. So my sister was just sort of updating me on stuff. So I've been sort of chatting with her a little bit on that because, family first is my motto,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I apologize, Justin, by the way. It's sort of just a bad timing thing. However, I do want to thank you for sharing everything with us tonight. Or the story.
I'm glad to hear that everything's going okay.
Yeah. With it's good now, and I'm going to take her out for brunch tomorrow, anyways, and we'll shoot the shit and go through everything. I keep trying to tell her, this is something you have to do in order to remain alive, Mom. So
right,
it sucks, but we got your back. When you're feeling down about it, because my mom suffers from bipolar and manic depression. So
that's tough.
Yeah, so I do my best to keep her spirits up. So, and she loves seeing me for the brunches, and she loves when I drop in there from time to time. So, at her home and stuff like that, because she wanted to be in a home because she didn't want to live on her own, because when her boyfriend passed away, which they now, by the way, figure it was COVID that killed him. So,
oh wow,
and I was right there when he was sick. I was holding his hand. I was right there beside the guy, keeping him sort of upbeat about stuff. And it's wild that I never caught it. My roommate had it. I never caught it.
I'm there with you.
Doctor,
2 points.
My doctor figures I may be immune to it. Like some folks, like literally like 1.8 or 2% of the population has immunity to this thing. So I may be in there because I never got it.
Right. I worked
symptoms or nothing.
I worked at a reception center. I was a CO, correction officer for 12 years of my life. And I worked at a reception center for the past, up until early this year, up until February this year. So we had constantly people coming through. I've never had COVID. Just this weekend, we had 3 people in my house with COVID, and I still haven't tested positive for it.
I have a question. Justin, how tall are you?
Maybe 5'10", 5'11".
Because Neil's like 6'14". So I'm for Neil, I could just be like,
he's just above the rest.
Yeah, Neil is just literally above the fucking COVID cloud that all the rest of us have to live in. That's why he doesn't get it.
Cleaner air up here.
Yeah, he's just,
you're almost as tall as me, Mike. You don't even.
That ruins my joke. Because I've had COVID and that shit sucked. Oh, I hate that shit.
So far, so good.
Hey, if you want to lose 20 pounds in 3 days,
I could use 20 pounds off.
Just let them cough right in your face.
Yeah, me too.
It's not like I've been isolating. I've kissed my wife. I mean, it's
I don't know.
Plenty of times. But I don't know.
But do you use sanitizer after?
Hold on, just 1 second, baby.
Just Lysol. Instead of Banaka, you just grab a little Lysol. You can keep your kisses. Keep your kisses nice and wet this COVID season with new Lysol mouth breath spray. Mouth sanitizer, aerosol mouth sanitizer.
That's funny. But yeah, as I was saying, while we close this out, we are going to do an after party, folks. So if you're interested in coming and saying hi to Justin, maybe you have a question that we didn't ask or something like that, and you wanted to talk to him a little bit about it, feel free to hit up one of us with a message on Twitter or Facebook or however social media thing that you can get to us at, so to speak. We'll send you a link, and we'll probably get it going closer to 6:30 because we always like to take a little bit of a break between here, for those of us that have to pee like a racehorse and refill our water glasses and stuff like that, or other liquid glasses, I guess. And
water is in some of the things that I drink.
Water's in everything that you drink. Yeah.
Well,
Even if you drank oil, there's still water in it. But anyway.
I do
Sort
mean
of.
what I say though. Like if there's anybody that wants to get a hold of me, they're welcome to. If they're going through it, if they've been through it, they just want somebody to talk to. Absolutely, I'm.
And I have all of Justin's links in the description box below, as well as I always do in every interview. I've got lots of other links too. If you're having, traumatic issues from deconverting or deconstructing, stuff like that, like recovering from religion, secular therapy, stuff like that. So. And I'm always on all of the fundraisers for those guys too, because they're amazing people and they do a great service.
That's how I met you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right too. That's right. And I actually wrote that in the description of how we met and kind of like, and then it's like, yeah, and then we got this thing going and here we are. So yeah, that's about it, guys. So thank you to everyone out there in the chat for hanging out. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's show. If you didn't, well, no refunds. So,
oh, that's encouraging.
Yeah,
you get what you get.
You get what you get. That's right. And thanks to my wonderful patrons. Without you guys, I really couldn't do this. So, thank you for all that you do for the show, for Mike and myself. So, you guys are awesome. Until then, guys, like I always say at the end of the interview, parts like the late great Christopher Hitchens once said, "It's called faith because it's not knowledge." And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Untangled.